So hi everyone, this video is about my own summary for chapter 10, and chapter 10 was entitled as the application layer. So watch this. This chapter is about the application layer. So an application layer is closest to the end user. It is the layer that provides the interface between the applications used to communicate and the underlying network over which messages are transmitted. Application layer protocols are used to exchange data between the programs running on the source and the destination host. There are many application layer protocols, and new protocols are always being developed. Some of the most widely known application layer protocols include the Hypertext Transfer Protocol, or also known as the HTTP, and the File Transfer Protocol, or known as the FTP, the Trivial File Transfer Protocol, or the TFTP, the Internet Message Access Protocol, or the IMAP or the IMAP, and the Domain Name System, that is also known as the DNS protocol. The presentation layer has three primary functions, which is formatting, presenting data at the source device into a compatible form for receipt by the destination device. Also, it is a compressing data in a way that can be decompressed by the destination device, and lastly, it encrypting data for transmission and decrypting data upon receipt. So the presentation layer formats data for the application layer, and it sets standards for file formats. There are some well-known standards for video that include QuickTime and Motion Picture Experts Group, or the MPEG, and also there are some well-known graphic image formats that are used on networks, which are Graphics Interchange Format, or also known as the GIF, the Joint Photographic Experts Group, or the JPEG, and the Portable Network Graphics, that is the PNG format. So the session layer can create and maintain dialogues between source and destination applications. It handles the exchange of information to initiate dialogues, keep them active, and to restart sessions that are disrupted or idle for a long period of time. The TCP or the IP application protocols specify the format and control information necessary for many common Internet communication functions. For the communications to be successful, the application layer protocols implemented on the source and the destination host must be compatible. To know how application protocols interact with end-user applications, client and server processes are considered to be in the application layer. In the client-server model, the device requesting the information is called a client, and the device responding to the request is called the server. So the client begins the exchange by requesting data from the server, which responds by sending one or more streams of data to the client. Application layer protocols describe the format of the requests and responses between the clients and the servers. On the other hand, it could be in the peer-to-peer or the P2P networking model, where the data is accessed from a peer device without the use of a dedicated server. The P2P network model involves two parts, which is the P2P networks and the P2P applications. Both parts have similar features, but in practice work quite differently. So in a P2P network, two or more computers are connected via a network and can share resources such as printers and files without having a dedicated server. Every connected end can function as both a server and a client. A P2P application allows the device to act as both a client and a server within the same communication. In this model, Every client is a server and every server is a client. A P2P application requires that each end device provide a user interface and run a background service. But then, some P2P applications use a hybrid system where resource sharing is decentralized, but the indices that point to resource locations are stored in a centralized directory. In a hybrid system, each peer accesses an index server to get the location of the resource stored on another peer. With the P2P applications, each computer in the network running the application can act as a client or a server for the other computers in the network running the application. Some some P2P applications are based on the Nutella protocol, where each user shares WOL files with other users. Gnutella allows P2P applications to search for shared resources on peers. Gnutella compatible client software allows users to connect to Gnutella services over the internet and to locate and access resources shared by other Gnutella peers. Clients use a small file called a torrent file to locate other users who have pieces that they need so that they can connect directly to them. So this file also contains information about the tracker computers that keep track of which users have what files. Any type of file can be shared between the users. Many of these files are copyrighted, meaning that only the creator has the right to use and distribute them. It is against the law to download or distribute copyrighted files without the permission from the copyright holder. Copyright violation can result in criminal charges and civil lawsuits. Hypertext Transfer Protocol and the Hypertext Markup Language is when a web address or the Uniform Resource Locator, or also known as the URL, is typed into a web browser. The web browser establishes a connection to the web service running on the server using the HTTP protocol. URLs and Uniform Resource Identifier, or URIs, are the names most people associated with web addresses. The client initiates an HTTP request to a server, and in response to the request, the HTTP server returns code for a web page, and the browser interprets the HTML code and displays a web page. The HTTP is a request or the response protocol. When a client, typically a web browser, sends a request to a web server, the HTTP specifies the message types used for that communication. Although the HTTP is remarkably flexible, it is not secure protocol. The request messages send information to the server in a plain text that can be intercepted and read. The server responses, typically the HTML pages, are also unencrypted. For secure communication across the internet, the HTTP secure or the HTTPS protocol is used. HTTPS uses authentication and encryption to secure data as it travels between the client and server. HTTPS uses the same client request server response process as the HTTP, but the data stream is encrypted with Secure Socket Layer, or the SSL, before being transported across the network. One of the primary services offered by an internet service provider is the email hosting. To run on a computer or other end device, email requires several applications and services. Email is a store and forward method of sending, storing, and retrieving electronic messages across a network. Email messages are stored in databases on mail servers, and the email clients communicate with mail servers to send and receive mail or email, while the mail servers communicate with other mail servers to transport messages from one domain to another. An email client does not communicate directly with other email clients when sending email. Instead, both clients rely on the mail server to transport messages. Email supports three separate protocols for the operation, which is the Simple Mail Transfer Protocol or the SMTP, the Post Office Protocol or the POP, and the IMAP. The SMTP message formats require a message header and a message body, while the message body can contain any amount of text. The message header must have a properly formatted recipient email address and a sender address. The destination email server may not be online or may be busy when email messages are sent. Therefore, the SMTP pulls messages to be sent at a later time. Sometimes, the server checks the queue for the messages and attempts to send them again. If the message is still not delivered after a predetermined expiration time, it is returned to the sender as undeliverable. POP is used by an application to retrieve mail from a mail server. With POP, mail is downloaded from the server to the client and then deleted on the server. This is how the POP operates by default. With POP, email messages are downloaded to the client and removed from the server. So, there is no centralized location where email messages are kept. Because the POP does not store messages, it is undesirable for all small business that needs a centralized backup solution. Lastly is the IMAP. It is another protocol that describes a method to retrieve the email messages. Unlike the POP, when the user connects to an IMAP-capable server, copies the messages and are downloaded to the client applications. The original messages are kept on the server until manually deleted. Users view copies of the messages in their email client software. So, devices are labeled with numeric IP addresses to send and receive data over networks. Domain names were created to convert the numeric address into a simple, recognizable name. The DNS protocol defines an automated service that matches resource names with the required numeric network address. The DNS server stores different types of resource records used to resolve names. The DNS or the Domain Name System protocol uses a hierarchical system to create a database to provide name resolution. The hierarchy looks like an inverted tree with the root at the top and branches below. Each DNS server maintains a specific database file and is only responsible for managing name to an IP mappings for that small portion of the entire DNS structure. So, the DNS is scalable because hostname resolution is spread across multiple servers. So, computer operating systems also have a utility that is called NSLOOKUP that allows the user to manually query the name servers to resolve a given host name. This utility can also be used to troubleshoot name resolution issues and to verify the current status of the name servers. The FTP is another commonly used application layer protocol. FTP was developed to allow for data transfers between a client and a server. An FTP client is an application that runs on a computer that is used to push and pull data from an FTP server. The data transfer can happen in either direction. The client can download pull data from the server, and the client can upload push data to the servers. So that's all, and thank you for watching this video, and I hope you enjoy and you learn from this. So I'm Kisha Lyka Villanueva of IT 205.